part of the draw. All right, I'm going to transition here, Perry, into the total market overview. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I'm going to leave the slide up here and just touch on it. This is the first week we're going through this. We're going to do it about once a month because what's interesting is this will take a large volume of MLS data and break down some overall trends. I mean, we were at the micro level, right, at Villages of Western Oaks or Legend Oaks, or you talked about the downtown condos over 700,000. This breaks it down by price range and actually analyzes really what's going on supply and demand because, as you know, one deal can really mess up what's going on with a particular subdivision or a neighborhood, right? Somebody leaves their house on the market for 500 days and it changes the entire average days on market for the neighborhood. Whereas when you have this many properties, the first thing you're going to see in the total market overview, and this just came out July 23rd, is the overall months of inventory for Austin are at 3.9 months. So if you talk about the general trend, that's obviously huge. That's why we're seeing multiple offers overall in the market, and that's why we're seeing activities that's so brisk. Now, what's interesting is if you go back 4 weeks ago, and we had Martin from TMM Group at Remax on a week ago, and he talked about his perception, and a lot of agents' perceptions is, okay, it's starting to moderate a little bit. There's always seasonality. Well, I can show you in the numbers that it actually is. A month ago, it was 3.2 months of inventory. So what's happening is, if you look at the pool of buyers, and this is the number that we'll focus on when we talk about this report, we keep track of a rolling 30 days worth of pendings. In other words, a pool of buyers is either going to get bigger or smaller based on what's going on. If we just take arbitrarily, say an escrow is on average 30 days. They're slightly longer than that on average, but just take 30 days. We had 2,056 pendings a month ago. We're down to 1,800, which tells me that the buyer pool is shrinking. Now, some of that seasonality, where you'll see the big differences in inventory and the big differences in what's going on in the market, Perry, let's look at down at like a 200,000 to 250. You know, we're at 3 months of inventory, and 52% of the listings are in contract. That's huge. That basically says you put something on and it's priced well, it's going to get multiple offers. That's a huge, huge percentage, because our overall percentage in the market is 42%, down from 49 a month ago. Now let's go over to 800,000 or over. And I just did a listing appointment in the Rollingwood area on Friday, and I had a conversation with a seller. Well, it's great that Austin's getting all the accolades of being strong, but if in your price range, we're over 12 months of inventory. Only 12% of the listings, or 1 in 8, are in contract. And we're seeing a much higher percentage of them not sell. So it's not that they're not selling, it's just that there's a supply and demand imbalance. So when you look at these things, it makes a huge difference in what price range you're in. The velocity in the market will be very, very different. So when people talk about the Austin market, you got to be careful about geographics, and you have to be careful about what price range you're in. And we'll be talking about this total market overview once a month. We'll touch on what's happening from a trend standpoint, but we can definitively say the market has moderated in the last month. We've got a little bit more inventory than we had a month ago. We've got a slightly smaller buyer pool than we had a month ago, and the pending ratios are significantly higher below 300,000 than they are going up, and they get progressively worse, meaning a lower percentage of listings are pending the higher you go above 300,000, all the way up to where we talked about 800,000 plus. So this is a great tool to get out of what we see is if we lined up 5 or 10 of our peers who didn't have access to this great data and asked them, how's the market? You would get 10 different answers. It's great, it's hot. Some people, if they work the high-end market, they're like, well, things aren't all selling. This allows you to actually answer it with a little bit of analytics so that there's a little bit of meat behind the answer of, how's it going in Austin? How is the real estate market? The link and the PDF for this will be up on the show notes for episode 3 here. So if you're listening to this or watching the video on YouTube, and you'd like to actually see the report that Perry and I just went through, that entire report will be up and available on the show notes. Now, we have no questions from listeners this week. I imagine we will next week. I've collected a couple that came in, and we're not going to review them just in the interest of time and keeping this thing on track.
Right.
We got more compliments than anything else about we had four or five people actually sending in the fact that they love the fact that we're sharing data freely in the marketplace. A couple of them were from agents, and then 3 or 4 were from sellers or buyers that are in the market. So, Perry, I'm going to sign off here in a minute. I don't know if you have anything else you want to add, but I got to tell you, I'm looking forward to episode 4 next week, and I'm working on getting a special guest from a builder on for us next week that actually builds down in the Southwest Austin area.
Right.
So we can talk a little bit about, from a builder or new construction perspective, what's going on down there.
I'm really excited to hear what he has to say, too, because I think that there's a lot of stuff going on down there, especially in that. We spent a lot of time talking about that under 400.